All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are basically handing you a cheat code. Yep, a cheat code for one of the toughest parts of any audit exam. I'm talking about that big, scary audit strategy question. We're going to turn it from a total headache into an easy win. So let's just dive right in.
You know that feeling, right? The exam clock is ticking down. You flip the page and see it. A huge 16-mark question asking you to develop an entire audit strategy. And your mind just goes blank. All you can hear is your own heart pounding. It's this massive, open-ended question, and yeah, it can be absolutely terrifying. But what if you had a secret weapon? What if you could flip that panic into pure confidence? Imagine having a step-by-step battle plan that guides you straight to a merit-level answer every single time. Well, that's exactly what this framework is. It's your exam cheat code. So, here's how we're going to do it. First, we'll break down the cheat code itself, our battle plan. Then we'll put it to the test with two pretty fun scenarios, Zuko's Cabbage Corp and the Fire Nation Fleet. After that, we'll look at the common exam traps you need to avoid, and we'll wrap up with the key things you need to remember for a full marks finish.
Okay, so before we can start using this awesome secret weapon, we obviously need to understand how it works. So this first part is all about decoding the core ideas behind any great audit plan. Okay, first things first, what even is an overall audit strategy? Look, according to ISA 300, it's not some giant, scary to-do list. The best way to think about it is as your high-level game plan. It's where you answer the big questions, like what's our main focus here? When are we going to do the work? And who or what do we need to get it done? It's all about how you're planning to tackle the specific risks you've already found. Now, a huge part of that strategy is choosing your approach. And I want you to think of it like this. A controls-based approach, that's like going into a restaurant kitchen, checking the chef's recipe and trusting their process. A substantive-only approach, on the other hand, is like ignoring the recipe completely and tasting every single dish yourself to make sure it's right. So one relies on the system, and the other relies on direct, hands-on verification.
So how do you actually choose which approach to take? Well, it's actually pretty logical. If your client has awesome internal controls, especially for, say, a huge volume of transactions, you can probably rely on them. That's a controls-based approach. But if those controls are weak, or you're dealing with something really tricky like a complex estimate, you've got to test things directly yourself. That's a substantive approach. And, in the real world, you're almost always using a mix of both. And this brings us right to our battle plan. This 5-step structure, this is our secret weapon. It's so simple. You start with the big picture, the FS level view, then you choose your overall approach. You zero in on the key focus areas, the big risks. Then you think about resources and timing. And finally, you lay out the detailed audit program. The beauty is, we are going to use these 5 steps as our headings for every planning question. All right, let's put this into practice. Time for our first scenario. Imagine you're auditing Zuko's Cabbage Corp. The exam asks you to outline the audit strategy. Now, that task word, outline, is key. It tells us the markers want a clear, structured summary, not a massive essay. Okay, let's look for the clues in the case. We've got a new startup with a high volume of small online sales, and it's all handled by an automated system. That's a massive hint right there. The big risk is revenue occurrence, basically making sure all those sales actually happened and aren't just, phantom cabbage orders. Nobody wants phantom cabbages. Okay, let's apply our 5-step plan. Step 1, FS view. Startup, online retail, risk is revenue. Got it. Step 2, approach. We're going to go controls-based for the revenue cycle. Why? Because of the high volume and automated system. But we'll be substantive for provisions. Step 3, focus. That significant risk of revenue occurrence. We have to test the controls over their order processing. Step 4, resources and timing. We definitely need an IT specialist to test that online system, and we should do that early on, the interim audit. And finally, step 5, the program. We'll test their automated matching and do some analytical review. See? It just flows. It's so structured. And right here is our first major exam trap. Listen up. You can't just write controls-based and move on. You will lose marks. You have to say why. You have to link it back to a fact from the scenario. For example, we'll use a controls-based approach due to the high volume of automated transactions. That justification, that is what gets you the merit. Okay, let's switch gears. A totally different scenario now. Forget cabbages, now you're auditing the Fire Nation Fleet. Whoa. The task word this time is design. This is a signal from the markers that they're looking for way more detail, especially in your substantive procedures.
So the facts here are completely different, right? We're not dealing with lots of tiny, simple transactions anymore. We have a massive fleet of custom-built war blimps, a really complex depreciation schedule, and the valuation of this fleet is a significant estimate with high uncertainty. Plus, Firelord Ozai is under pressure to report strong asset values. The whole thing just screams high risk and tells us we need direct evidence.
So let's run it through the framework again. Our approach this time, it's got to be substantive only for the PPE cycle. And our justification, the significant estimation uncertainty and the risk of management bias. Our focus is squarely on that valuation assertion. And for resources, this is crucial. We need to engage a valuation specialist. No way we can do this on our own. And all this tricky work is going to happen at year end. See how perfectly the framework adapts? Same structure, totally different answer. And that brings us to trap number 2, forgetting about resources. As soon as you see a complex area like valuation or a significant estimate or just a really high-risk client, a little alarm should go off in your brain. Do I need an expert here? Mentioning the need for a specialist or maybe even an engagement quality control reviewer, that is a classic way to bump your answer up to the merit level. Okay, so we've seen how to use the framework and we've flagged a couple of common traps. Now let's really zero in on what separates a simple pass from a victorious full marks answer.
Okay, this slide right here is pure gold. On the left, you see a lazy answer, perform substantive testing on revenue. That'll get you a pass, maybe. On the right, though, is the merit level answer that gets you top marks. What's the difference? It's all about specificity. You have to define the nature of the test. What exactly are you doing? The timing, when are you doing it? And the extent, how much are you testing? You have to define the N, T, and E of your procedures every time.
So let's just quickly recap the biggest mistakes to avoid. Number 1, being too generic. You have to link your answer to the scenario. 2, forgetting to explain why you chose your audit approach. 3, missing the big stuff like risks, timing, or resources. 4, writing a vague audit program. Always specify N, T, and E. And 5, not using a simple table to keep your answer structured. If you can dodge these 5 traps, you are well on your way to a fantastic mark. All right, let's lock all this in. We have decoded the battle plan, we've run it through a couple of very different scenarios, and we've looked at how to dodge the most common traps. It's time for the final recap to make sure this stuff really sticks.
And here it is one more time, your 5-step battle plan. Remember it. Step 1, start broad with that FS level view. Step 2, choose your overall approach. Step 3, zero in on the key focus areas and risks. Step 4, think about your resources and timing. And Step 5, detail the audit program, specifying N, T, E. Please just use these as your headings every single time.
So if there's one thing you take away from this, it's this. The structure is the secret. It's the whole cheat code. Using this framework forces you to consider everything the marker is looking for, from that big picture strategy all the way down to the detailed program. It literally makes sure you don't miss a thing.
And the second key takeaway, be specific. Always justify why you chose an approach by linking it back to the facts in the scenario. And when you design a procedure, you have to define its nature, its timing, and its extent. Honestly, those details are what separate a good answer from a truly great one.
So now that you have this battle plan, I've got a question for you. Which part of your audit study, which maybe felt like a big risk before, now feels more like an opportunity? With this in your toolkit, that big planning question isn't a threat anymore. It's your chance to shine. Go get those marks.